Hello, Bill Molyneux here with Bill's History and Wargaming World, and we are in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, September 17th, and we're at General Lee's headquarters. We have Goober the Traveling Bear tagging along. Some of you may or may not know, but Goober the Traveling Bear has been all over the world, actually, in countries besides America. So we are going to do the first day's battlefield. We're just gonna do some video work. It won't be fancy. It won't be like Chris at VA Travels or JD at the History Underground. But let's take a look at General Lee's headquarters, and we're gonna do the whole first day's field. Well, here we are, Lee's headquarters at Gettysburg. Now, there's been a lot of debate, and I'm not going to give a Civil War battlefield tour in the sense of this building. Some people say he only walked in here, and across the street is where his headquarters and tent were. Some people say, oh no, he stayed here and had dinner here. This video is just a fun video and not to cause debate. So please, in the comments, you can leave your views, but be respectful. I'm not trying to be Elwood Woody Chris, the famous Gettysburg historian that passed away a few years ago. One thing about where this site is, the Larson's Quality Inn used to sit here. And many years ago, that hotel had a restaurant, and it was quite the place. So let's take a view of the Lee building. Now, when this was part of a museum for that hotel, they actually had a very nice little museum in it one time. Now, they did run a miniature war game in this building several years ago. Another YouTube group, they ran a miniature war game with Gary Alderman of the Battlefield Trust. Now, this is like the first time I've been here up close. And it's very peaceful here, and the building's been well preserved. Civil War building. You'll see these on a lot of homes in Gettysburg. My home in Gettysburg, unfortunately, did not have that, and I sold it in 2017. Now, out looking across the field, you'll see Seminary Ridge, McPherson's barn out there, and because of the trees, you can't see Oak Hill and Oak Ridge and the Peace Light Monument, but you can see the bridge for the railroad cut. There's our doghouse. I'm going to see if we can get anything inside the building for video. Well, I found this sign of one of the many placards, and fighting his largest battle, Lee was a busy man at Gettysburg. He spent a significant amount of time on horseback riding around the battlefield. He performed certain headquarters functions in this house, the Thompson House, but he most likely slept and performed other tasks in his tent across the street where that cannon is. The upside down, right side, upright cannon in Gettysburg means that that's an officer's headquarters. Some battlefields, that actually means an officer died there. So it depends what battlefield you're at. Wow, what a beautiful day I have. And I'm going to close this video out. I'm going to link all the first day videos together. And for my friends who watch my videos but will never get here due to where they live, Jim O'Neill, for instance, he lives way over in Scotland. Jack lives way over in Arizona. And John and the Broome County Sheriff's Department, they all come down one big group, so they don't really have a problem getting here. Alright, let's close this video out. It'll be linked with others. Alright, well, here we are on Route 30, looking west. And another 1.5 miles is a small monument on the right, which is the first shot marker. It's very difficult to get to. I'm sorry about the road traffic noise, but I am on Route 30 in Gettysburg on the First Day's Field. Here we have John Fulton Reynolds, commander of the 1st Corps, and of course General Buford. And the Union were along this line. All the national troops, as Grant would call them in his memoirs that I've been reading. And here we have the McPherson's barn. So our Union troops are along here. Devon and Gamble's brigades will be pushed back from here. And the Confederates will be coming up through those woods across Willoughby Run. And of course, Buford gave the famous saying that the devil's to pay when John Reynolds come running up. Well, let's go look at a couple of cool monuments. And here's John Burns. We'll try to get him before the bus unloads. He is the civilian from the War of 1812 that came out to fight alongside of the nationalist troops, the Union troops, and he was wounded 3 times and then got to meet Abraham Lincoln. So we will move on because we have a bus tour that just pulled up. Alright, well, we moved away from the bus that had about 100 tourists hopping out of it. Very nice to see people interested in history. And so we moved down to the Iron Brigade line. And I apologize, there was once a time I used to know the regiments to many of these brigades. I believe the Iron Brigade was the 2nd, 7th, 17th Indiana, 24th Michigan, and 19th Indiana maybe. Apologize, I'm getting old and I sell Cheerios for a living. I don't do historical stuff like I used to, especially in the American Civil War. So the view of our Iron Brigade that's lined up along here, I think the 2nd Wisconsin's here too. Down that little knoll is Willoughby Run, and the Confederates of Archer's Brigade had to cross that stream and come up this knoll in the heat, blazing sun, wearing all that wool and equipment. North Carolina. Well, here we are, right down the road from the John Burns Monument. It was impossible to continue video there with the amount of tourists that had arrived. So we are where the Iron Brigade is lined up. And because 2nd Wisconsin, 7th Wisconsin, I think, 19th Indiana, and here we have the 24th Michigan. Now they were lined up along the line, and down that little knoll is Willoughby Run. And the Archer's Brigade of the North Carolina troops coming up, and they had to push these Union troops out of the way. Now, we will move further down the track, but it was a fierce firefight throughout this area, and the North Carolina troops took a pounding all through the Battle of Gettysburg, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd days. So let's go and explore some more of the first day's battlefield, and we'll do our best not to run into tour buses, even though it's nice to see them and people interested in history at historic sites. Well, we've moved a little bit around the corner from our Iron Brigade position along the loop of the map, and John Reynolds, who is commander of the entire 1st Corps in the wing, he was shot here, and this is a small monument that they placed for the location. The McPherson's barn's right on the other side of these trees, and of course my videos are not meant to be super awesome. Go to Gary Alderman and the Battlefield Trust for super awesome Gettysburg videos. But this is my own world of just trying to give a glimpse, and for my half a dozen followers that I have. So the line runs along here for our Union troops at this point. And we're going to go up and try to see over the corn if we can see the seminary. Well, this is the cornfield here on the Seminary Ridge. Lutheran Seminary is right over that. And wait, I thought I saw something. What can it be? It's Goober the traveling bear in the corn. All right, this is a little dedication to a man named Jerry Lanigan. And Jerry Lanigan passed away this past week, September 4th, I think would be, right, or 7th. And he was a great miniature wargamer, history teacher, professor. He is just a good friend on Facebook and my wargaming world. And he used to get a chuckle when he used to see Goober the traveling bear at different locations. So life is short. Laugh a little bit. Instead of children of the corn, it's Goober of the corn. Come on, that's got to make somebody laugh out there. Well, you see that big cupola, the white one? That's not the Lutheran Seminary cupola. Look over to the right, you see a little antenna type steeple thing? That's where it is. It's covered up by the trees from this angle. So we are at the railroad cut. Railroad cut played a big part of the first day's field. We are looking at Union Nationalist Troops monuments, and what happened is, I believe it's a 6 Wisconsin charges from that fence line as the Confederates are coming up this railroad cut. And I think it was called shooting pigs in a barrel or something to that effect, because the Union troops just lined up and fired down on them. The railroad tracks were not in place yet at this time. So here we are on the other side of the bridge that I was walking on, and Davis's brigade, I think he's the brigade commander, was the nephew of Jefferson Davis, and I believe a lot of his men were captured here. And 1988, I tried to take the test, or I did take the test for Gettysburg Licensed Battlefield Guide and failed miserably. But I'm doing what I can do. I don't have Elwood Christ or Rob Wingert, great battlefield guides, with me. They've passed away, but maybe they're with me in spirit. So this is the view of our Union line that they would be seeing with the Confederates coming up. So our next stop is going to be the Peace Light Memorial, and we're going to check out some artillery pieces there. And there's a general up there on the right. That's General Wadsworth. He's from Geneseo, New York area. Near in Geneseo, up near Rochester, there's a lot of stuff named after him. And there's our McPherson's barn and my car. So let's head over to the Peace Light. Well, here we are at the Peace Light Memorial. And the Peace Light's got an interesting history. in the eternal flame that's on it was switched over to a light bulb at one time and then went back to a flame again. So right now we're looking at the Union lines, and you can see how if we're the Confederates, how we could see all the way along the line. So the peace light is really a neat monument to the Battle of Gettysburg, and the eternal flame is supposed to unite the country, and in the 1930s there was a big dedication for it. The nice thing about this is Oak Ridge, Oak Hill, is we're going to visit the 2 Whitworth artillery pieces, and there's only 2 of these artillery pieces on the battlefield. And I've done several videos of artillery pieces at Gettysburg with the 12-pounder Napoleon, which is a greenish color, and then our 3-inch rifle, which is a black rifle barrel, and then the 10-pounder Parrott. So, and all of those guns were up here on this hill, and they could lob shells down to the Union lines, which now is what we're viewing. And that tree line was the Union line there. And Iverson's brigade is ordered to go across that open area and attack and drive the nationalist troops away. So we're going to continue up our pathway, and let's visit our Whitworth artillery pieces. These are very unique. They're imported from Great Britain, and they had a range of about 5 miles. And what's neat about these is they're breech loaders. They're a rifled barrel, so the projectile would spin, and how they would operate is that handle you would twist, sort of like opening a bottle, and then that breech would swing open, and you would put your shell in and your gunpowder, and you could fire shells as far away as 5 miles, and the Confederates did do that and lob shells into Gettysburg itself. Now, the range equipment for these were never delivered to the Confederacy. Great Britain did not give them to the Confederates, but they got the guns. And you can see how it would swing open, just like a swinging door. And these are very unique. I believe there's one more in the museum itself and another one in the archives. And someone out there might know how many Whitworths are out in other battlefields. So as we look along the Union lines, you can see how the Confederates could just roll up the Union line basically like a wet blanket. So what's really neat about this whole position is how you could see how vulnerable the Union troops were in this area. So General Iverson, a brigade commander for the Confederacy, is ordered to cross and attack those wood lines. But the Union troops were hidden behind some stone walls and were able to give a devastating volley. And many of Iverson's men were killed there, and it's called Iverson's Pits by some when they did the mass burial. And as let's go down and check on Sally Ann. That's we'll and there aren't any tours but one car, so maybe I won't get interrupted here. It goes through here. All right, well, we are at the Sally Ann Monument. So what is the Sally Ann Monument? Well, here's our regimental marker for this unit. And came out here specifically for everyone who loves dogs. This is the 11th Pennsylvania Infantry. And we'll start top to bottom. Now, Sally Ann, and once again, we have the Lucky Penny, and we have the dog biscuits. And there's always dog biscuits here. Now, I knew a battlefield guide who knew everything about Sally Ann. And off the top of my head in memory, please excuse me if I'm wrong, but I believe the story is Sally Ann stayed with the dead and wounded here of the 11th Pennsylvania, and July 5th, when the Union National troops took back the area, Sally Ann was guarding everybody, and I believe she might have lost a paw in the action. And then I think it's the Wilderness or Spotsylvania, she is killed in combat. She was the unit's mascot dog. Very beautiful, a bit tranquil here. So for my first day's battle video, we're going to leave this little area here and head over to a place called Barlow's Knoll. During the battle, I believe it was called Blocker's Knoll. I wish Scott Mingus was with me. I do not want to advertise myself as a super historian. I'm just a miniature war gamer that loves history, and I dabble a bit in everything. So let's head over to Barlow's Knoll. Okay, we are at Barlow's Knoll, and this is pretty much it for the first day's field, and I have wind. I'm doing the best I can to cover my mic. I don't know how effective it will be, but at Barlow's Knoll there are a lot of cool stories at Barlow's Knoll. By the way, the guns here are 12-pounder Napoleons. Chris at VA Travels, 12-pounder Napoleons are bluish green. Please check on VA Travels on YouTube. Never met Chris, but his videos are great. We have General Barlow here. So what happens here on Barlow's Knoll? This is the end of the Union line on the first day's field. And we can't see anything out there because of corn. But there is a road. And that road is got a ton of Confederates coming. And they flank this position because Barlow does not have enough men to go all the way down to that road. So Lieutenant Bernard Wilkinson has this battery of artillery. And six 12-pounders. 12-pounder Napoleons. Well, there is a good picture, painting, drawing, stories about Bernard. His leg gets hit by a cannonball, hanging by the flesh. He removes his pocket knife, takes his pocket knife out, and goes and amputates his own leg and continues commanding from the saddle. And then, of course, he passes away. I believe the pocket knife is in the museum. And there is one of the famous sketches of him. Wilkinson was only 19. And they're saying, according to one legend, he bound his leg and amputated with his pocket knife as a shot and shells fell around him. He died that night at the hospital. I've heard some stories he fought in the saddle for 2 hours with his leg amputated with a leather strap bound around it. Another interesting story, and there used to be a sign here for it, is that's General Barlow, the general that commanded this brigade. And then there was a General Gordon who attacked this brigade. And it was called an OGS, Old Guide Story. And I'll go quickly. Supposedly at one time there was some story that Barlow and Gordon helped each other throughout the war. With one was wounded and the other got his wife behind lines to help him, and vice versa. Then several years later they met both as congressmen, I believe it is, and then it turns out that story may have been totally false, because they both greeted each other fondly in the war of the past. But that sign's not even here anymore. So I'm sure if you Google it, But this is the end of my first day's field ramblings. I wanted to do a little bit of the video of the first day's field where I did that one battle, but there was no place to park and I had a tour bus in my way. But we're going to go down here and check the cemetery. Alright, my wind has really picked up since I entered the Ulm Cemetery. This is the pauper cemetery for Gettysburg. And anyhow, it's just a quick view of this. Barlow's Knoll is not on the main map for tourism anymore. They have the tourists going from the Peace Light Memorial back to the seminary museum. So unfortunately, this is left off the app for the tour, which is sad, but you can't put everything in the map, and people need to plan more than one day to visit Gettysburg. So we're going to close out the first day's battlefield, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who watches my videos. Please subscribe and share, and stay safe, be kind, and be courteous, and thank you.